Hey there! In a time of great divide, when California and Los Angeles makes headlines only to announce new regulations to cover protests, riots, sexual allegation in Hollywood, and how job creators like Elon Musk or entertainers like Joe Rogan or Ben Shapiro are moving out of the state, creating a real exodus of people, it's good to remember the times when Americans set out to demonstrate that the aridity of a region once called the Great American Desert need be no serious obstacle to its full settlement and development. There was a time when government, businesses, and community alike believed in shared power and shared resources. And on this day, today, October the 9th, the Hoover Dam generators began to generate electricity from the Colorado River and transmitted 266 miles to Los Angeles for the first time in the year 1936. The city celebrated with floodlights and a parade on Broadway. It is estimated that more than 1 million persons crowded the downtown district from one end to another to celebrate this moment. Let's dive right into it. It has been compared to the Acropolis of ancient Greece and the Colosseum of Imperial Rome, one of the greatest engineering work of its character ever attempted by the hand of man. It reflected the engineering genius and design philosophy of its time. In the midst of the Great Depression, it was a symbol of hope for the dispossessed. It was a piece of art, and one of the highlights for many of the people who visit Hoover Dam each year is the actual artwork they find, with much of the sculpture being the work of Norwegian-born naturalized American Oscar Hansen. It was him first who compared the dam to such works as the Great Pyramids of Egypt, and he wasn't far off. Hoover Dam was the first single structure to contain more masonry than the Great Pyramid at Giza. There are more than 5 million barrels or 4,360,000 cubic yards of concrete in the dam, power plant and extra workplaces, and 45 million pounds of reinforcement steel. It is a concrete arch gravity dam, meaning that as tons of water in the reservoir push against the concrete in the dam, compressive forces travel along the dam's great wall into the cliffs on both sides of the dam. The first concrete was poured into the dam on June 6 of 1933. The engineers calculated that if the dam were to be built in a single continuous pour, the concrete would take 125 years to cool, and the resulting stresses would cause the dam to crack and crumble. Instead, the ground where the dam would rise was marked with rectangles, and concrete blocks in columns were poured. The design called for a series of an estimated 215 vertical columns. The columns were constructed by block by block by pouring concrete into square forms, varying in size from 25 to 60 feet square. Each block interlocked with the next vertical and horizontal keyways, just like a Lego set. Because concrete creates great internal heat while hardening, Hoover Dam engineers worried about the potential for uneven cooling and contraction of the concrete and the serious problem it possessed. To solve the problem, they also created an artificial cooling system consisting of 590 miles of pipe loops embedded in the concrete, with air-cooled or refrigerated water circulating through them. To speed up even more the process, an engineering team designed a mammoth refrigeration machine. It was the world's largest refrigerator, and this supersized fridge dispensed upwards of 1,000 tons of ice every day, speeding up basically the cooling and looping decades of the project's timeline. Not to mention that during the summertime, as each section was poured, it was the sole task of 20 men to keep the concrete moist by spraying its surface with water. Thus was Hoover Dam built, concrete block upon concrete block, with the last bucket being poured on May 29 of 1935. The quantity of concrete used would be enough to build 3,000 miles of road, a full-size highway from one end of the United States to the other. Was it any wonder that artist Oscar Hansen likened the Hoover Dam to the pyramids? And if a full-size highway from one end of the United States to the other was not so impressive, let's put things a little bit more into perspective. The Hoover Dam is actually a system of more than 20 dams along a 1500 miles river, affecting an area of 242,000 square miles, with so much concrete as to build a wide sidewalk around the earth at the equator. Under the guidance of the Federal Reclamation Bureau, Hoover Dam became a part of this larger multi-purpose water development project that tamed the wild Colorado River for the use of the growing number of western farmers, ranchers, and city dwellers. Water that had once flew freely to the ocean was now impounded in the 115-mile-long Lake Mead. Massive aqueducts channeling millions of gallons of Colorado River water to Nevada, Arizona, and even up to Mexico. With Hoover Dam, the federal government set out to demonstrate that the aridity of a region, once called the Great American Desert, doesn't have to be a serious obstacle to its full settlement and development. Its central purpose was the collection, preservation, and rational distribution of the most precious of all Western commodities, water. In fact, the electricity generated deep in the bowels of Hoover Dam was only a secondary benefit, and the power plant was the world's largest hydroelectric station from 1939 to 1949, generating hydroelectric power annually for homes and businesses in Nevada, Arizona, and California. Filling of Lake Mead began February 1st of 1935, even before the last of the concrete was poured that May, and by the later half of 1936, water levels in the Lake Mead were high enough to permit power generation, so the first three Alice Chalmers built Francis turbine generators, all on the Nevada side, began operating. On October 9, 1936, electrical power generated at Hoover Dam arrived in Los Angeles. The city celebrated with floodlights and a parade on Broadway. Astride the power of 150,000 horses with burning plums outspread, the giant of Hoover Dam electricity rode into Los Angeles last night, casting a heretofore unseen and magnificent glare on more than 1 million persons who crowded the downtown district from end to end. A tumult of yelling and whistling and screaming greeted the giant with an exuberance and spontaneous feeling that has not been observed since the demonstration the day the World War ended. Writer Thomas Tranner reported in the October 10, 1936 Los Angeles Times edition. And as of March 1937, one more Nevada generator went online, and the first Arizona generator by August. By September of 1939, four more generators were operating, and the dam's power plant became the largest hydroelectricity facility in the world. The final generator was not placed in service until 1961. Original plans called for 16 large generators, 8 on each side of the river, but 2 smaller generators were installed instead of one large one on the Arizona side for a total of 17. The smaller generators were used to serve smaller communities at a time when the output of each generator was dedicated to a single municipality, before the dam's total power output was placed on the grid and made arbitrarily distributable. Today, as then, electrically operated hoists atop the intake towers raise and lower gates below, drawing water in from the reservoir. The water rushes in through headers and down huge pipes called penstocks to the powerhouse, where water flowing at a rate of 2,000 to 3,000 cubic feet per second operates the 17 main turbines that spin the generators, thus creating electricity. So, Hoover Dam stores water that irrigates 2 million acres, not only in the rich farm fields of Southern California's Imperial Valley, but across the straight line in Arizona, Nevada, and up to Mexico. It generates enough hydroelectric power to serve 1.3 million people each year, provides municipal water for urban centers including Los Angeles, Phoenix, and Tucson, holds back floodwaters, provides storage during drought, and takes more than a little credit for the unabashed growth of the desert in the southwest. It represents a time when government, businesses, and community alike believed in shared power and shared resources. Energy and water would be created and distributed to the betterment of all. For all that, Hoover Dam is much more. It is an American icon, a monument to the ingenuity of the nation's engineers and the power of its machines. Today, the dam is a thriving tourist destination. It offers stunning views and fascinating insight, and each year nearly 7 million people visit the dam to snap selfies and experience its grandeur. Have a great day, all of you out there. Bye for now.